Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar this morning, which is on NetSuite 360 dashboards for manufacturing and projects. I'm the host for today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Johnstone and I am an account manager here at OneKloudX. At OneKloudX, we provide a range of services in relation to NetSuite, from implementation to development to support and training. We really provide that wide range across the full NetSuite product. So before we get fully underway, we'll start with a quick agenda for the action items for today. So starting off, we'll have a bit of an introduction to today's webinar, along with a recap of NetSuite dashboards in general. Then we'll go on to the separate areas of focus for today's webinar, being Item 360, Supply 360, Project 360, and the Vendor 360 and Dashboard. Throughout this session, we will have the Q&A chat box open, and we will have time at the end of the session to answer those questions. So as we go, please feel free to drop some questions in the Q&A chat, and we will pick those up towards the back end of the webinar. So just a bit of a recap in terms of NetSuite's dashboards. Hopefully by now, all of you will be familiar with the likes of the Home dashboard, as well as the Center tab dashboards. But effectively, dashboards in NetSuite are all focused on providing access to real-time information to make sure that you've got visibility of your NetSuite data and can maximize your efficiency and make those informed decisions quicker. Now, beyond the Home dashboard and the Center tab dashboards, NetSuite also offers a number of 360 dashboards, which are free tools which can further increase your visibility across your data in NetSuite. Now, this is the second webinar in our 360 dashboard series. Our previous one, hosted last month, focused on Cash 360, Benchmark 360, and Customer 360. Now, along with that webinar, we did also produce a user guide which details all the information that you need to know about those 360 dashboards. So if that's something that you missed out on but would still like to benefit from the user guide across Cash 360, Benchmark 360 and Customer 360, then please feel free to drop a comment in the chat saying Dashboard 360, and we will share that user guide with you shortly after today's session. Okay, so in terms of today's webinar, we will be focusing on the Item 360, Supply 360, Project 360, and the Vendor 360 and Dashboard. Again, as part of this webinar, we will be producing a user guide across these different topics. I see a couple of you have entered comments for Dashboard 360, so we will be sharing the previous user guide with you shortly after the session. But yeah, we are currently finalizing our user guide for today's webinar, so we will share that with you probably early next week when we're sharing the recording of today's session as well. So jumping right in, we'll start off with the Item 360. So the Item 360 provides that comprehensive 360-degree view and visibility of all of your item transactions in one consolidated dashboard. Now, effectively, that means instead of going into the item master or using save searches, you've got an alternative to view all of that key item information and then access that in more detail by clicking through on the relative transactions there. In terms of the installation of the Item 360, if you do not already have this installed in your NetSuite environment, you can add that in an administrator role directly from the Suite App Marketplace. Now, there's a couple of prerequisites which are detailed in our user guide, which we'll be sharing after the session. But generally speaking, for Item 360, the prerequisites are that you have a OneWorld account, as well as some of the basic inventory features enabled within your environment. But the Item 360 can be used across assembly items, including both lot and serialized assemblies, as well as across inventory items, again, including serialized and lot numbered inventory items, as well as kit items beyond that. We've got a couple of different views here in terms of the item 360, just to give you a feel of what that looks like. But instead of spending too long in slides, we'll jump into a demo account so that we can show you the functionality live. Okay, so I will just jump into a demo account that I've got set up for today. Now with the item 360, as mentioned, this can be installed from the Suite App Marketplace using an administrator role. So if we go here to search Suite Apps and search for item 360, we'll see here that the item 360 dashboard will come up. It's got some information in terms of the overview, the features, and the publisher, which of course is Oracle NetSuite. And then up here, if you do not already have it installed, then you'll have the option to install it from there. Now, once you have got the item 360 dashboard installed and configured, you'll be able to access it by going to your reports and then clicking on item 360. Now you see on the left-hand side, the item 360 is split across some different tabs there, which we'll get into in a moment. But starting off, you'll see here the first step to view the information is to select one of your items. So if you come in here, you've got a list of all of the items that are supported by the item 360, and you just need to go ahead and select one of those from here. I'll select our Dell 24-inch monitor. Now, there is the option to further filter that down. So say, for example, you have got a complex group structure within NetSuite and you want to filter down the item based on the individual subsidiary, you can do that from there. Or say, for example, you're operating in a multi-location environment, you might want to review the information across each individual location separately, and you can do that with the filters at the top. We'll just keep this across all subsidiaries and locations for the time being. And straight away from the item overview screen, you can see that we start to get attention of some alerts that we may have to take access on relating to this item. So as we've got this set for all locations, we can see across our Melbourne, Perth and Sydney locations that we do have POs that are past due. Now, what that's doing is it's taking our expected receipt date from that PO, doing the calculation there on today's date, and giving that alert and visibility of the number of days that that's past due, so we can then take the necessary actions to follow up with our suppliers on that purchase order. In addition, if you are using the MRP, the Material Requirements Planning functionality, then you will also get alerts based on the supply planning within NetSuite as well. Now that will bring attention to different actions across your planned purchase orders, as well as planned work orders and transfer orders if they are being used within your NetSuite environment. So coming down from there, we will select our inventory tab, which shows us all of the information in terms of our inventory on hand, inventory status, inventory across bins, effectively all of the information that we require on this item that we have filtered down to. So starting off, you'll see here that we've got our inventory by location, so we can see exactly what our on-hand, committed, available, and so on is across this item, across all of the locations, as well as the total on the bottom there as well. Now, something to note across all of these tabs that we'll be going through, you do have the option to filter. So say, for example, we wanted to filter this down to only view a certain location, then we can do that by selecting the filter button there. Now, coming down, if you wanted to go one step more granular than just viewing by location, we can start to review by status as well. Now, in this case, all of the items that we've got on hand and available are at a status of good. But if you're using NetSuite's inventory statuses to track any damaged items or any quarantine items, then you'll be able to get that visibility from this one centralized dashboard here. Again, if you're using any bin locations within NetSuite, in this demo account, we do not have bins enabled, but if you did, you would be able to see that one step further again to see exactly where those items are across the bins within your warehouse. Beyond that, we've got our projected on-hand calculation here. So this is effectively looking at our inbound and outbound transactions to calculate exactly what our on-hand is going to look like based on these stocks ins and outs there. Now, something to note as well about these dashboards is we can have that straight drill down into the related transactions. So say, for example, these sales orders, if we wanted to open them up and review further, this is a hyperlink where we can view that sales order. And the same again for any other transactions across our POs, RMAs, and work orders, and our inbound shipments as well. Coming down to our inbound transactions, this splits up based on inbound versus outbound. So we can see all of the transactions that are going to be effectively coming into stock, as well as any transactions that are going to be taking this item out of stock across our sales orders and work orders in this example. Again, if you have got a multi-location or multi-subsidiary environment, you may be managing transfer orders or intercompany transfer orders. That information is all going to be visible through these tabs here at the bottom. Now, in terms of the inventory, you'll see if you hover over it, there is one more option on that tab, which is the inventory history. Now, the inventory history allows, again, that visibility of any ins and outs of this item, and we can change the from date, so we can roll that back historically and see exactly how those transactions have impacted our on-hand quantities over time. So making sure that we can see both our ingoings and outgoings in terms of this stock item. So moving on to the next tab, which is our purchasing. And as the name suggests, this is going to hold all of our purchase-related information for this item. You'll see here the first tab is the open purchase orders. Again, we have got the option to drill down into the individual purchase orders from here as well. And again, we can filter this down. So if we wanted to filter this to a certain location, certain supplier, or certain status, then we can do that using the filter functionality there as well. Now, beyond that, if you are using inbound shipment functionality beyond the purchase orders, then we've also got that full visibility and drill down functionality into the inbound shipment transaction, as well as the expected ship date visibility here on the right-hand side. Beyond that, if you're using any of the advanced procurement functionality across open blanket purchase orders, quote requests, purchase contracts, and requisitions, then we can see all of that information as well across the different tabs. Now, in terms of replenishment methods, regardless of whether you're using reorder point planning or material requirements planning, these tabs give the visibility of the planned reorder item purchases, as well as the planned purchase orders for the MRP functionality. And again, from this view, given that we've got reorder point planning set up for this item, we can see our exact quantity as well as our reorder point and preferred stock level. So we can make that analysis and decide if we need to purchase more of this item. Now, beyond that, on this tab, we have also got the three-way match visibility. Now, this provides that insight into any of the three-way match process that is taking place for this item. And on the right-hand side, you can track the variance over time. So in this demo account, it seems that all of our three-way match has been 100% accurate, and there has been 0% variance. Of course, in a real example, there would be likely some variance over time, but this tab allows you to review that and have all of the information in one place. So moving on from the purchasing tab, we have got the manufacturing tab. Now, this is going to differ slightly depending on whether the item you're looking at is a component or whether it itself is an assembly item. Now, given that the item that we're currently looking at is a component, it's going to show us any of the open work orders that this is included in as a component of an overall assembly. Now, again, from here, we can drill down into the assembly item record itself, or to the work order, in this case, work order 137 and 138. And beyond that, we have that visibility of the status of the work order and the quantity of this item that is going to be used in the work order itself as well. Again, down the bottom here, we've also got the replenishment method. So if it's an assembly item that you're using MRP for or using reorder point planning, then you'll have visibility of any planned work orders or reorder point work orders that are being factored in from that replenishment strategy. To give an example of an assembly item, we'll just select a new item from here and allow the item 360 to refresh. So as mentioned, given that we've now moved on to an assembly item, we're going to see that information in the Open Work Orders Assembly tab rather than in the Open Work Orders Component tab. So you see here for this assembly item, we've got visibility across all of the open work orders, as well as the visibility of the status and whether we are using the work in progress functionality there as well. So I'll just roll that back to the previous item. So as you can see, pretty easy to flick between different items and update the item 360 to see the insights for that specific item. Now coming on to the bottom tab, I guess on the other side from purchasing, you have got the sales tab. Now the sales tab, again, compiles all of the sales information for this item into one key place. So we've got our open sales orders, our open quotes, any RMAs that we've got, as well as any opportunities and demand plans. So with our opportunities, that's starting to take the information from the CRM side of the system to allow, once again, the visibility of that in one key place. Again, it goes without saying, but the same applies where if we wanted to drill down into the individual transactions, then we can do that directly from the sales tab in the item 360. Now, beyond this sales tab here, you'll also see that there is sales analytics if we hover over that. So we can have visibility of our gross and net volume sales, as well as a nice chart here so that we've got that visualization. One thing to note on the gross sales is there's a slight limitation here where you must select an individual subsidiary instead of viewing this on a consolidated level within the item 360. But if, say, for example, we select our subsidiary 1, we're going to refresh and we're going to have visibility across our gross sales here as well, making sure that we've got the visibility on a subsidiary by subsidiary basis. And the same applies where we can filter this further into individual locations so we can compare and contrast how this item is performing across those different locations as well. So I'll just change that back to all. Now, finally, if the item that you're looking at is part of a kit, then you're going to have visibility of the kit sales at the bottom of that tab as well. Otherwise, you're going to be able to see your gross and net volume and sales from these different tabs. Okay, so that wraps it up for item 360. Again, if you've got any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we'll pick them up towards the end of the session. So moving on, next up we have got our Supply 360 dashboard. Now, Supply 360 provides that comprehensive 360-degree display of all of your upcoming work orders across a specific location and date range. Now, what that does is it means that you have visibility of any components that is going to have insufficient inventory on hand and making sure that you've got visibility of the scheduled supply of those components as well. Now, what this means is you've got one centralized place where you can view any alerts or any insufficient planned supply and be able to take action before that disrupts your operations. So again, the Supply 360 can be installed by an administrator directly from the Suite App Marketplace. Again, the prerequisites will be included in the user guide that we will be sharing, but generally speaking, you need to have NetSuite OneWorld as well as work orders installed within your account. So to carry on from there, you'll see that we once again have some images of the Supply 360, but instead of spending too much time in a PowerPoint, we are going to jump back into the demo account so that we can go through the Supply 360 in a bit more detail. So again, as mentioned, the Supply 360 can be installed by an administrator through the Suite App Marketplace. Simply need to navigate to the Suite App Marketplace and search for Supply 360. And again, as with the Item 360 dashboard, you can see the information across the overview, features and publisher, and then select install to install the Supply 360 into your account. Now again, once that's set up and configured, you will have the option to access the Supply 360 from the reports link here. So the Supply 360 looks a bit like this, and you'll see at the top, the first thing that we need to do is select a location as well as specify a date range. So I'll go ahead and select our Perth location, and I'll keep the date range as today, going ahead the next week. Now, straight away, once we have selected the location and the date range, we will have visibility of alerts, bringing attention to any work orders or areas of the system that have insufficient inventory to be able to complete those work orders. Now, from there, we've got the separate tabs. So beginning with our shortages by work order, we can see exactly what work orders are going to have shortages, as well as the components that we currently have a shortage of as well. So in this case, we've got work order 136 and 139, which are both scheduled to start today. And we are short on 2 of the components, obviously being 3 for work order 136 and 6 of both components for work order 139. Now, again, given that we are in a demo environment, we just have a couple of examples here. Now, hopefully, you wouldn't have too many examples, because that means that you're running short for your components on your work orders. But if you do have the option to search through this. So if you're looking for any specific assemblies or specific components or specific statuses, then you can use the filter functionality to get down to that more granular level of detail and see that information that you require across your shortages. Now, moving on to the shortages by component. What this is effectively doing is ignoring the individual work order information and just combining the overall shortages per component. So in this case, we can see that we are short of 9 of each of the OPR 001 and the OPR 002. Now, of course, using NetSuite functionality across material requirements planning or reorder point and whatever you are using, you would attempt to address these issues before it gets to this stage. But of course, the Supply 360 provides that sort of final check, so you can see if there are any disruptions that are going to happen to that manufacturing process. Now, the final tab here on the right-hand side is the All Components tab, which is effectively going to show us all of the components that we require to fulfill those work orders across the specified date range for that location. Now, if we change that, we'll just update that to our Sydney location. We can see how that changes based on the work orders that we have got scheduled across those dates per location as well. So this is the view of all of the components. And we can see here that for our Sydney location, we actually don't have any shortages by work order or shortages by component, but we can still have that visibility of all of the components that are required for the work orders that we've got scheduled. So again, that's it for our Supply 360, and we will jump back into the slides and move on to our Project 360 dashboard. So the Project 360 provides that full single view of all of the essential metrics and data points to allow you to manage your projects more efficiently. When you first go into the Project 360, you'll have a dedicated portfolio page, so you can quickly manage your projects from there. but you can drill down into the individual projects and get more granular KPIs based on the performance there. Now, what this allows you to do is strategize, plan, and manage risks by ensuring that you've got that visibility of status updates all within one centralized area. Now again, Project 360 can be installed by an administrator directly from the Suite App Marketplace. There are some prerequisites which are mainly across the modules that you have to have available. So effectively the Suite Projects modules to be able to use the Project 360 dashboard. Now again, included some screenshots here, but we will be jumping momentarily into a demo account so that we can go through this in a bit more detail. But as you can see, the Project 360 dashboard, much like the Item 360, is split into some different areas, in this case being the project overview, resource planning, budget and estimate and completion, and billing and revenue, and then last but not least, the financial tab. Now there's some information here in terms of what these different tabs show. So the resource planning section is of course all around your resource allocation, availability and utilization, whereas your budget and estimate and completion section is all focused on tracking your project financials and comparing your actual costs against the budgeted amounts. The billing and revenue section offers visibility into project-related invoices, as well as your revenue recognition and your payment statuses. It ensures that the billing processes align with your project progress and contract terms, effectively meaning you can stay on top of your billing in relation to your projects. Now, as mentioned, last but not least, the financial tab presents a comprehensive overview of your project's financial health, including your profitability and cost breakdowns and revenue trends. So again, we will jump into the demo account for the Project 360 overview. Just need to change accounts to one that's got the Project 360 enabled. And again, with risk of repeating myself too much, by going to the Suite Apps Marketplace, an administrator can install the Project 360 dashboard by simply searching and installing from here. Now, once that has been completed and the Project 360 dashboard has been set up, we can go ahead and access it by following the path that we went through there in terms of navigation. So as mentioned, when we first go into our Project 360 dashboard, we are greeted by the project portfolio, which can be filtered down by project, customer, project manager, and project end date, so that we can see only the projects that we want. Now this of course does include multi-select, so if we wanted to select a range of projects or customers or project managers, then we can filter down that information and view it across our project portfolio. Now from here, we do have a high level across the budget, resourcing and financials, but of course we can drill into the project itself to get that more granular level of detail. So starting off, once we drill down into the project itself, you'll see here that we start off with the project overview, which provides us that information into our KPIs, primary information, a high-level view of the resources that we've got assigned to this project, as well as any project documentation or client contacts which have been recorded against that project record within NetSuite. From here, we do also have some action links, so we can go and dive directly into the project record as well as the customer record if there's anything that we want to update or see in more detail. Moving on to the resource planning tab, we can see from this screen again all of the actions that we can take across updating the project schedule, so updating the tasks that are included, editing the resource allocation, as well as viewing the Gantt chart. Now from here, we can see this Gantt chart view, which shows us all of our different tasks broken down, as well as the resources that we've got assigned and the project timelines for these tasks as well. Scrolling down, we then have our resource allocation chart or grid. So from here, we can directly update our resources in terms of their allocations on this project, or we can open up the resource allocation chart where the standard functionality applies to search for resources and then allocate them to this project. With that, there is, of course, the skills functionality. So say, for example, we required somebody for this project that had particular CRM knowledge. We can search across our skill sets to then be able to select the necessary resource and then assign them to this project directly from the Project 360 view. Further down at the bottom here, we also have visibility of any milestones, timesheets, as well as a chart of our actual hours versus planned hours by resources. So we've got that full visibility of how our resources are utilising time across this project versus what we had initially planned as part of our project planning exercise. Moving on to the next tab, which is the budget and EAC, or estimate at completion. And again, we can take action directly from here. So we can drill down to manage the project budget or transfer any incorrect time. And beyond that, we have got visibility of our budget performance, looking at our baseline versus our EAC versus our actuals, as well as that full budget versus actuals across the work breakdown structure tasks. So getting into the granular task detail. Finally, here on the bottom right, we have got the budget versus EAC by work breakdown structure, meaning that we can see exactly where any variance has come from. In this case, the review of the statement of work, we have not included any cost or time for that in our baseline budget. But of course, we have got a variance in terms of what was expected there, which has resulted in the change of our EAC versus our baseline. So moving on to the next tab, which is our billing and revenue. Again, this provides one centralized place for all of our billing activities for this project. We can take action and drill directly into the project billing management as well as the revenue recognition management. And beyond that, we have visibility of our invoices, whether they are pending, in which case we would see the days that they are overdue, or whether the invoices are paid, or whether we have any unbilled charges. In this case, we've got a total of almost $22,000 that is unbilled, which may prompt us to carry out that billing process as part of our project billing operations. Now, last but not least, we have got the financials tab, which again, we can take action to manage our revenue recognition, but this provides that visibility of our project profitability, including the profitability report, which provides that breakdown per item group across our costs, both actual and committed, and our revenue, both actual and committed as well. So we've got a full picture of our profitability for this project. Okay, so jumping into the slides again, we have got our Vendor 360 and dashboard. So the Vendor 360 provides information that allows you to assess your overall relationship with vendors. Now, the Vendor 360 is contained within the vendor record itself, where you've got the assigned tabs across your vendor scorecard, open POs, open bills and credits, and so on. Now, given that the Vendor 360 is within the vendor record itself, and there's no dedicated Vendor 360 dashboard for now, we would recommend using the native vendor dashboard functionality to provide that visual information that you require on your vendor performance. So with the vendor dashboard, you can optimize your procurement opportunities, improve your vendor relationships, and enhance the financial oversight for your supplier relationships. Now, as with the home dashboard, the vendor dashboard can be configured as you see fit, meaning that you can add the different sections, update the KPIs that are being displayed there, and so on. So the vendor dashboard consists of those multiple different sections, and again, these can be configured based on your requirements. And another bonus about the vendor dashboard is there's no installation required. So if this is something that you're not currently using, you can start using that straight away today without any additional installation or configuration. Again, we will limit the time in the PowerPoint and jump straight into a demonstration of the Vendor 360 and dashboard functionality. So I'm just going to change back to the first demo account that we were using and open up one of our vendor records by searching for it in the global search. Now, as mentioned, the Vendor 360 is contained within the vendor record itself, which provides that information into our vendor scorecard, so the number of orders, receipts, bills, returns, and so on, as well as across all of these additional areas, so the open POs, open bills and credits, visibility into our top purchased items, and so on. Now, of course, this is a fairly form-based view, so that is where we would recommend using the supplier or vendor dashboard to supplement that functionality to provide you a bit more of a visual representation of that vendor relationship. Now, as mentioned, this can be personalized, so we can come in here and add additional KPI meters, save searches, lists, report snapshots, and so on. I've currently got this vendor dashboard set up to show our top 5 items by purchases, but of course we can change these trend graphs, we can change the dates that we're reviewing this to make sure that we've got visibility of the key information for our suppliers that we need to make informed decisions. In terms of the KPIs, we've also got the visibility of our purchases, AP balance, open balance, overdue balance, and days overdue. But given this is using NetSuite's KPIs functionality, we can easily add both standard and custom KPIs to make sure that we've got the visualization of the data that we require. Now, beyond that, I have also added a vendor dashboard link, meaning that we can get to the different areas related to this supplier quickly and easily, whether that's looking at different reports or creating new transactions, again, using that drill down and click through functionality to get to where we need to be. On this dashboard, I've also got it set up for the headline vendor information, so making sure that we've got the visibility there, as well as a save search across all of their transactions with the options to filter this down and only look at specific transactions, so we can interrogate those and get visibility of the transactions that we need quickly and easily. Okay, so that is all in terms of the Vendor 360 and dashboard, which brings us to an end of our webinar. I'll just double check and see if there have been any questions, which it doesn't look like there have been so far. But if you do have any questions, then please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box just now, whether that's across the Item 360, Supply 360, Project 360 or Vendor 360 and reports, then please feel free to drop in those questions. I've also just put a message in the chat there. If there's anything that you have seen today that you would like to review in more detail, please feel free to reach out directly to myself, and I'd be more than happy to set up a one-on-one session so I can answer your questions in further detail. We have added my email address in the chat there, ross.johnston@onecloudx.com.au. Please feel free to reach out, and I'd be more than happy to discuss how these dashboards and other ones can be used specific to your business to make sure that you've got the visibility of the information that you need in the format that you want. We have finished up slightly earlier than planned, so I will stay around for a few minutes. But again, thanks everyone for attending today's session. It's been great to have you all online this morning. And again, if there's anything that you require, please feel free to reach out and I'd be more than happy to discuss in further detail. So just to wrap up, we will be hosting another webinar next month that will be focused on the 2025.1 release webinar, which you should be going through the 2025.1 upgrade just now if you've not already. And that webinar is going to be focused on all of the information and features that you might have missed related to that upgrade. So it'd be great to see you all on there. We will be sharing the invites. But again, just to wrap up, thank you everyone for joining today, and I look forward to speaking to you all again soon.